Have you ever woken up from a dream just feeling off, confused, maybe a little guilty? You know, dreams about betrayal are incredibly powerful and, honestly, pretty unsettling. But what if their real meaning isn't what you think it is? Okay, let's dive into this because today we are exploring the absolutely fascinating world of classical Islamic dream interpretation and how it decodes one of the most sensitive dreams you can imagine.
And that's really the core question, isn't it? In the classical tradition, a dream about adultery is almost never, ever taken literally. Instead, it's seen as this complex symbol, a message your subconscious is sending you about totally different areas of your life. We're talking your ambitions, your finances, and your deepest struggles. The real meanings are often so surprising, and frankly, they go against all common sense.
So where does all this stuff come from? I mean, these aren't just random guesses. They actually stem from a really rich scholarly tradition that's over 1,000 years old. Let's meet two of the most influential figures behind it all.
We'll start with Muhammad ibn Sirin, a true pioneer from way back in the 8th century. His work is pretty much the foundation for this entire field. You see, he saw dreams not as just random mental noise, but as deeply symbolic messages. And to unlock them? Well, that required a serious knowledge of scripture and human nature. Because for him, the key was always the moral context behind the symbol.
Ibn Sirin basically anchors his whole framework in this one Quranic verse. By linking the dream to a verse about transgression, he makes this really powerful argument. The dream isn't about literal desire. No, because the act is secretive and it betrays trust, he equates it symbolically with other things like theft or breaking a really important promise or betraying someone's confidence. In his view, the dream is a warning sign about a breach of honor happening somewhere else in your life.
Okay, so fast forward a few centuries, all the way to the 17th century. We meet the scholar Abd al-Ghani al-Nabulsi. He took this tradition and just took it to a whole new level. He created this massive encyclopedia of dream symbols that not only confirmed what Ibn Sirin said, but also added these incredible new layers of nuance. He was essentially building a more detailed, more comprehensive guide for pretty much any dream scenario you could think of.
So while both of these scholars totally agree that an adultery dream symbolizes some kind of betrayal or transgression, they might zoom in on slightly different things. Ibn Sirin often connects it to these broader moral failings, like breaking covenants. Al-Nabulsi, on the other hand, gets super specific. He might suggest it symbolizes something as precise as wanting money from a certain person or making a bad investment. But they both agree on the most fundamental point. You have to look beyond the literal.
All right, so how does this actually play out? Let's start with the interpretations for a man. According to these scholars, when a man has this dream, it's usually a symbolic reflection of his public life, his career, his financial goals, his social standing. It's like a map of his worldly struggles and his biggest aspirations.
And this is where it gets really wild and completely counterintuitive. The who in the dream is actually a symbol for what you're dealing with in real life. So, an unknown woman, that could represent an unknown opportunity for some kind of material gain. A teacher isn't a person, but the knowledge you could get from them. Even a dream involving a relative, say a sister, isn't seen as a transgression. It's interpreted as a reflection of your duty to care for her.
And to really hone in on the most striking example, get this. Dreaming of adultery with an unknown, beautiful woman is actually seen as a major positive. It could symbolize a promotion, a new job, a raise in status. According to the interpreters, the more beautiful the woman is in the dream, the bigger the worldly benefit that's coming your way. Crazy, right?
Okay, so what about when a woman has this dream? Well, here, the interpretations often shift away from the public world and more toward the private. The dream points inward, reflecting her relationships, her emotional state, and big life changes. It basically becomes a mirror for her personal world.
For a single woman, the dream can go a couple of different ways. On one hand, it can be a really positive sign, symbolizing an upcoming marriage to someone she loves, or just a major positive shift in her life. But on the other hand, it can also be a warning. It might be suggesting that she needs to be careful, to be wary of deception or schemes that others are planning behind her back.
Now, for a married woman, the dream's meaning gets even more layered. It might point to her husband being absent, either physically or just emotionally, or it could suggest she's relying on another man for help. But, and here's a fascinating paradox, the dream could also signal a benefit that's coming directly to her husband. So the apparent betrayal actually turns into a positive sign for her family.
So far, we've mostly talked about actually committing the act in the dream. But what happens if the dreamer refuses? This is where the interpretation takes a really dramatic and important turn. The specific actions you take and the characters involved are absolutely crucial to unlocking the dream's real message.
I want you to think of this as a critical fork in the road in the dream's story.
Going through with the act, as we've seen, often symbolizes some kind of worldly transaction, a gain, a loss, a conflict. But refusing to do it, that changes the entire meaning. It shifts the whole focus away from the material world and onto the spiritual and moral character of the dreamer.
So here's the absolute key, the main thing to remember. Refusing the act in a dream is an overwhelmingly positive sign. It symbolizes piety, chastity, and spiritual strength. It means the dreamer is actively overcoming some kind of hardship, turning away from temptation, and protecting their integrity. It's a powerful affirmation of their core values.
And the symbolism gets even more specific depending on who you refuse. Refusing a ruler in a dream doesn't mean you're rejecting power, but that you're actually earning a good reputation. The meaning can even be negative, though. For example, refusing a scholar could symbolize turning your back on knowledge. The point is, every single character in that dream is a symbol, and that completely changes the meaning of the choice you make.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together. After exploring all these ancient, really complex interpretations, what's the ultimate takeaway? What's the real purpose of decoding a dream in this way?
The fundamental message from scholars like Ibn Sina and al-Nabuzi is this: don't take the dream at face value. A dream of betrayal is not a prophecy of infidelity. It is a symbolic language of the soul. It's a map that can point to our ambition for that promotion, our anxiety about money, our reliance on other people, or our deep struggle to just stick to our principles. It's psychology, just expressed through symbols.
And that leaves us with one final thought. This framework for understanding the human mind is over 1,000 years old, yet it speaks to anxieties we still feel right now about our status, our security, our integrity. It really makes you wonder, what does the enduring relevance of these symbolic interpretations tell us about the timeless ways we process our hopes and our fears, even when we're asleep?